Okay, good morning, everybody. As you're coming in through our waiting room, much appreciate all of you showing up here. My name is Dave Walker, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of the B2SMB Institute. This is our first live session for our Leaders Forum, and I'm joined by TJ Fox, who is the president of Verizon Business. Welcome, TJ. Good to see you.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me here today.
It's great to have you, man. I really appreciate you doing this and taking time out of what I'm sure is a very busy schedule. Hey, do us all as an audience, do us a favor and kind of give us the 411 on you and your career.
Yeah, Dave. I've been with the company, Verizon. I'm in my 27th or 28th year. I've worked all over the U.S. I started selling car phones in Atlanta, Georgia, after I got out of school. I had a couple jobs and got out of school, and I worked for a company called Pacific Telesis, or Pactel Cellular, which turned into AirTouch, which turned into Vodafone AirTouch, and then we turned into Verizon. We're in our 20th year as Verizon, which is a combination of Vodafone AirTouch, Bell Atlantic, and GTE. I had numerous responsibilities. I was a frontline salesperson, running my own small business, if you imagine back in those days. Communications, mobile communications, which exploded. Had numerous kind of sales manager, P&L, associate director, and then I moved to Denver and ran our B2B operations in our mountain region. Moved to Southern California, did the same role. And then after that, I moved to Phoenix and I ran our retail operations in about 5 states. So I had about 200 doors. And then back in 2006, I was appointed the president in the Midwest, running our operations there. I did that for 7 years. 7 years after that, I moved to headquarters. I always wondered what went on at headquarters. And what I realized was a lot of smart people working very hard, and I ran wireless operations. So I had responsibilities for things that I was very familiar with: retail operations, B2B operations. Things I wasn't so familiar with, I ran VerizonWireless.com, our IT prioritization, et cetera. And then in the last 4.5, 5 years, I ran our enterprise wireless business. In the last 2 years, I've been running our small, medium, and corporate business, both wireline and wireless. So obviously, that's been a very, if you follow us and our earnings, it's been a very fast growing business. So last year we grew over $800 million year over year. And then, we were off to a pretty good start here in January, February. And then obviously the impact of COVID, David. And it's been a navigation that we and my leadership team have had to use all of our skills to navigate for our 4 stakeholders here at Verizon: our employees, employee safety first, our customers and potential customers, our shareholders, and then society. These are stakeholders we've had, since the beginning, but we added society actually about 1.5 years ago as an equal shareholder. And wow, how important has that been over the last 4 or 5 months, and especially what's happened over the last 12 weeks or so. So a lot's been happening, Dave, and I can't thank you enough for having me and all the great work that you do at the Institute, to assist small businesses and the people that are supporting and providing for those small businesses to thrive.
I really appreciate that. I observed from the outside how quickly you guys have frankly jumped into the business of helping small business. And I described it to friends as, boy, they really got a help first approach. So describe for me, from the moment that you realized, wow, we're entering a crisis here, to the first couple of weeks that you were as a leader trying to muster your team, muster your forces, and serve those 4 pillars. Tell me about that. Tell me about that process.
Yeah, just thinking back, I kind of get chills because it was so unprecedented. We were having a leadership meeting. I was with our CEO, Tammy Irwin, back in mid-February, and we had been dealing with COVID. Keep in mind, Verizon we have offices in, over, 50 countries. We speak 40 languages. So we were experiencing this in places like Italy already. And, so we're happy, it was one of these, first quarter, let's get down. And the vast majority of the meeting started going, what if this thing jumps the pond and it starts impacting us in the United States? And I will tell you, some of the conversations we had were just wild. Like, who would have ever thought, right?
Right.
And 3 weeks later, we made a decision. I'll never forget the decision we made on that Friday night, that we were bringing our entire organization across the globe home. And, I have, 5,000 employees just in my organization that report directly into my world, the matrix and all of that. But, hey, 3,500 of them, okay, they were flexible, laptops, connectivity. But I had 1,600 of them in call centers. We didn't have a plan for any of that. And, it got to the point after a couple of days, it was like, grab your computer, grab your keyboard, grab everything at your desk and just get home and we'll figure it out. And then quite frankly, we use our own tools, my own engineers, my own sales engineers to get them up and running very quickly. And what was shocking to me, within days, we had zero gaps in how I do customer service, I do tech support in certain parts of my business, and things were moving along. Now, was it perfect? No. And we had to optimize that, but it was caring for, the employees at first, Dave. And then, I have a pretty big contingent here in the Northeast. I'm based out of New Jersey, and became an incredible hotspot here as well. So I have employees that were impacted by COVID. Their family members, unfortunately, were impacted. And these were things that the leadership team, I just couldn't be more proud of how we started, making sure that we were caring for them. And I think maybe we all thought, Dave, and I've talked to a lot of leaders, like, okay, this will pass. And it sure didn't pass. And we started to have to get into a regular cadence of running our business on a daily basis, like this wasn't going to pass. So we really permanized a lot of things. And what I would say, in certain parts of my business, we were running in place. Other parts of my business, we were incredibly busy, and making sure that we were assisting small, medium, and corporate customers here in the United States. That's my responsibility with their connectivity needs as they started dispersing their endpoints on what they needed to accomplish. And so I think that was kind of what happened. We'll all look back at it and we'll do a white paper, you know what I mean, on what happened, what went well, and what didn't. But what I will say is we're beyond riding this out, and we're already in the reinvention stages of what we need to do as a business to operate. And I know that other businesses, small, medium, and corporate businesses, the ones that are progressive, they're doing that right now because there's no going back to work. It's going to be going forward to work in a way that we never anticipated how permanent that will be as we move forward. So I think that those are the things in the initial stages that how we operated and how we navigated our employees, their safety, and then we navigated the customers right away.
So no pun intended, but the phones light up in those first couple of weeks of March from your customers. What are they asking of you guys?
Yeah, initially it was like help. I got an email, like we do, a lot of times it's escalations, right? And I got a note from a customer who had been struggling with what I would call other partners and vendors. And then, he was going down his list in his business because his business was exploding in certain areas. And he got to us and he was amazed that the phone rang, we answered, and he just went on to talk about the employee, how we handled things, how we took care of these certain things, both on a wireless and a wireline and a security standpoint. Called out the employee. What he didn't realize was that employee was working from their home and had been there for like 6 days. And that employee had never worked from home. And that to me was the beginning stages of, we were running to this crisis. And then it was like, we need to start permanizing this. And how do we do that? And I think some of the hardest things, Dave, have been the culture and making sure we stay engaged with our employees. Because anybody can do something for a week or 2 or 3 or 4. But when you start getting into week 8 and 9, and you've never worked from home, and all the things that go on, this is where the leadership team, I think, has stepped up, not only to Verizon, but you can tell across organizations large and small that we work with, and then quite frankly, friends and associates that I've been working with on how they've been able to navigate through that. But those are the things that lit up, and it was like their connectivity, their security, and quite frankly, it was just help. All my stuff is at the office. How do I distribute what I need to work with, whether I'm a law firm, a restaurant that maybe didn't have a website, you know what I mean, didn't have the connectivity. These are the type of things that we leaned in very hard on.
And just, I know this is probably proprietary information, but you're talking about small business customers, especially in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions.
Yes.
So the volume of activity that you guys are frankly having to deal with, sorry about that. It's important that you put your phone on silent for these things. So the reaction that the small businesses had to needing your help and you stepping in to do the help, just briefly, did your team kind of embrace the fact that they're working in a different way and they're trying to serve in a different way? Did they do a good job of figuring that out? What kind of management challenge was that?
Yeah, what I would say is part of our Verizon credo has always been, network is at the core, and we run to a crisis. And we build our networks and products, Dave, for what I would call hurricanes and storms and fires.
Right.
And what happened, and that's how we build our organization as well. What happened was it was everywhere, and it happened all at once. And I couldn't be more proud of our network, the network team, and our employees, and the assist of the customers. But you can do that. I believe you can do that for periods of time where you surge. Where our challenge, I think that we've been navigating is the surge isn't, we're done surging. This is the new normal. Right. And how we're going to continue to drive our business for all 4 stakeholders is super important. So I think that those are the things I think about. So you can surge, but how long can you sustain the surge? And what we've had to do is we had parts of my organization, Dave, that were on the sidelines. We closed our stores, which we do a lot of B2B business within our stores. And so we had resources that we had to redeploy very quickly into other areas that were surging, whether it was our telesales business and other areas. Our conferencing business was extremely busy, and having to redeploy and train these resources that were, great resources. And then, hey, this is your new job today. Right. And you have to do an excellent job at that because our customers are requiring it. Even though we are in crisis, we have to maintain that level of support for our customers through that. Our conferencing business exploded, and we needed assistance in that. And so I think that those are the areas that I'm looking to replicate and duplicate as we move forward. I think the other thing, Dave, that we've seen in our organization is the speed in which we've made decisions, kind of a wartime, CEO type thing, making decisions very quickly for both small, medium, and corporate business, large business is super important. And I couldn't be more proud of the decisions our IT organizations made, our network teams have made so quickly that we've been able to bring products and capabilities to bear to the marketplace that might have taken us 8 months, a year, we did in 3 or 4 weeks. So I think those are the other pieces that the crisis has exposed that says we need to be incredibly agile as we continue to move forward. That way we're prepared better than yesterday for things. And that lesson needs to go through all pieces of the business. And that goes back to my original point. We're not going back to work. It's not, that's not the way to think of it. It's how is your organization, that small business, that medium business, how are you going to remain incredibly flexible to do that? And I think that Verizon and my team has earned the right to provide that connectivity that's going to be needed and that flexibility and the unified communications that you'll need outside of the traditional office space.
So there's obviously this high touch that's going on down at the grassroots level, for lack of a better description, between your organization and your customers. But then there's some things that you're kind of creating that are overarching, that kind of serve many needs at once. So I want you to talk a little bit about the origins and the offering behind a program that I heard about for the first time a couple of weeks ago that really is focused specifically on women in business.
Yeah, look, I think that it's not just women in business, but you think of small businesses, and Dave, you know these stats. I mean, no matter where you get the statistics, right? They all kind of the output is very similar. So, you know, small businesses in the United States, if you add in medium, you know, they're employing close to 90% of all workers. You know, Verizon, you're a small business, Dave, right?
Right, exactly.
Things. It's not Verizon's that's adding the job, the entrepreneurials, and it's been fairly consistent over the last 20 years on that. But women-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses are the ones that they operate and entrepreneur at a much faster rate. The issue becomes the resources that they have access to, especially in underserved communities across the U.S. And when I say resources, I don't just mean, hey, go to the bank, borrow some money. I'm talking just the connectivity they need, the broadband they need. You know, where you sit, where I sit, you know, pick a suburb across the U.S. that has great connectivity. Well, do you have to, you know, go to Alpharetta or Atlanta or Silicon Valley to have that kind of connectivity to start your business? And that's why connectivity is so important. So women-owned businesses, the announcement we made yesterday around the comeback coach, it's not just for women businesses, but it's for all businesses, including minority-owned businesses, veteran businesses, and some of the programs that we've set forth to where we show them where these resources are that they can take advantage of. You know, whether it's our One Talk services, our video conferencing, or quite frankly, just our mentoring that we're offering across a number of different platforms. One of the things, Dave, that a number of things that we did right when the crisis started, we had a number of different programs, whether it was our Pay It Forward Live, which encouraged you and me and everyone to frequent our small businesses in our communities and how important that was in our communities, or whether it was the grants from Pay It Forward Live that we did across the U.S. And I had the opportunity on one of our daily webcasts that we do at Verizon to highlight a barbershop in Cleveland who won one of the grants, and taking that information, taking those resources were super important for them to continue to drive the business in the communities in which they are serving. The other piece was we've done about 35 webinars, and these aren't product webinars, Dave, you know, about Verizon. they're more what I would call high-level webinars on, we brought the small business administrator in to talk about, how you would access the PPP loans and things like that. So more, much high level, where these were resources. And we had over 35,000 attendees in these webinars as people were just trying to navigate. Remember, pre-COVID, they're running their business. They're an expert in what they're doing. Post-COVID, they're like, wait a minute, 40% of small businesses don't have a digital presence. It's like, and they don't have the connectivity they need to make that happen. And they don't have, it's like, hey, people were just walking into my restaurant. And so I think that those are the things that the resources are out there. We know how we can help them access the cloud. They need the connectivity to do that. They need the security to do that. These are things that you and I and medium and large businesses have been taking advantage for a long time. These are the type of resources that these type of businesses need to take advantage of if they're going to be successful. The gravity of COVID, you can't defy gravity on this. It's going changing everything. And for small businesses to navigate, you can see it today. As I'm around my community, the small businesses are open. They're trying to figure things out. And they're using connectivity in much different ways today than they were in a pre-COVID world.
So are you confident that small businesses will be able to hack their way into, frankly, a new use of technology? Are they getting it as they obviously need to get it?
I think that they are. We've done some surveying, David. Not just us. We work very closely with some of our partners like McKinsey and Bain, and we've been doing biweekly surveys of the landscape, not only here in the United States, but globally, as we're trying to modify our strategies as a business. We did a small business survey, and we'll do another one here in about 6 weeks. And we really focused in on small business, and what we're seeing is kind of renewed confidence. Now I realize you watch the news, and we have hotspots that are happening across the U.S. But small businesses in the surveys are adapting to kind of the new normal. 43% of them are planning on expanding their business through digital, right, and related technologies. So these are things that maybe, hey, my business was operating just fine before this happened. It went to zero. How am I going to engage in that way? So I think that ones that are progressive, ones that are thinking that they can't, no one can defy gravity, that are going to modify the way that they operate. And mobility, connectivity, this type of environment we're doing right now. Our acquisition of Blue Jeans, which is a corporate enterprise grade platform from a video conferencing perspective that we're going to waterfall down into the small business area. These are the type of things that small businesses will be able to take advantage of like never before. And then it's a little early, but 5G, I believe, I wish 5G would have been ubiquitous when this all went down. And because the connectivity characteristics of that, it's going to change the world. It'll change everything in the US. But making sure that you have kind of a mobile first connectivity strategy in your business to where you're incredibly flexible in what's happening. 5G will be a component of that moving forward for businesses to take advantage of it.
So in all of the technology offerings and capability offerings that you guys are offering right now, I was struck the other day in a conversation with Todd Wilkins, who's the Chief Product Officer at ShipStation, and he said, look, I think that the most successful B2SMB enterprises are actually going to lean in on their offerings and be, frankly, more proactive, not necessarily in selling to the small business, but really telling them, if you want help, here is help. Here is what will make this part of the work that you need to do better. Is that kind of, I mean, especially when it comes to things like 5G, do you see yourself kind of in that kind of that posture of saying, look, we really want to help. We're not trying to sell you something. We really just want to help. Is that, do you think that works?
Yeah, look, I think that you had asked earlier how many customers we have, and we just in my segment we have millions, and so it's not just it's my obligation. It's my team's obligation, and to help these customers navigate like never before the technologies that are there. I'm on a charity board out of Chicago, small business, right? It's 40 employees, and we've been driving them very hard, to get into the cloud from everything that they're doing. And there was reluctance because they're comfortable the way it was happening. Well, this has changed everything and how they're going to operate going forward. And connectivity, when you're moving mission critical applications to the cloud, it can be daunting for a small business that doesn't have an IT department, right? They have me on their board, and you're pushing them. But now the leadership team is like, we have to do this. It's the only way we can operate in an environment that we're uncertain do we ever go back to the way we went into work? Did we ever do the trainings? I was on a meeting yesterday with the executive committee of the board, and we're making resource decisions around virtual trainings. And the CEO of the organization, she's like, I think that we're going to do these type of trainings virtually forever. And I thought it was very progressive, for the CEO to say that. And we'll see, but we're going to make those investments because right now we're bubblegum and band-aiding, you know what I mean? And now it's going to be, this will be the baseline for what we do, as opposed to hopping on a plane, going to train home visitors, in this community. We're going to do this in a virtual environment. So I think that it's going to require small business owners, small business presidents, CEOs of small and medium organizations to be very open and progressive around the technologies that, quite frankly, Fortune 2000s have been taking advantage of for more than a decade.
So as we wrap this up, there's a lot of business to small business enterprise leaders who are listening in and who are, kind of digesting the playbook that you're describing, that you guys undertook. What were the biggest lessons that you personally learned over the course of the last 3 to 4 months?
There's a famous philosopher, David, that says, Dennis Leary, right? He says,
very famous.
Crisis doesn't create character, it reveals it. Right. And those are the things I've seen. And with everything that we've been going through, culture is always the secret ingredient of any business. And making sure that you can care and feed the culture when you're not at the cafeteria together, you're not having a leadership meeting together or a town hall, you're having to do it in new and innovative ways. And I think that those are the things that you got to have a baseline with your employees, and that you're caring and feeding them. That way, they can care for themselves, care for them as the employee, and that way they can care for the customer and the potential customer. Ultimately, you have to get those two things correct to ultimately care for the shareholder and then a society. And I think that those are the things that, I already knew this, right? It got magnified under this crisis. And like I say, a hurricane, a fire, this or that, you run to that crisis and what you see is amazing work by people that just do amazing things across cross-functional to assist in what's happening outside. This has revealed it's as important today as it was prior to that. It just got tested in a way that we never would have thought. And I think that those are the things that I don't want to say I learned it. It just was a major reinforcement of how important that is. And it's not just a large organization like mine, but it's all organizations. And as we are working with small and medium customers, and quite frankly, when I'm talking to some of my peers in other companies, we have these same conversations. And I think that we need to make sure that we communicate that to all customers, because at the end of the day, and Dave, you do this every day, right?
Mhm.
We need to nail this down for small and medium businesses. It's the lifeblood of the US economy. We have to get them back on track. You and I conversation before we started here on how much money's owed in receivables and payables that people need to pay. These are all things that it's our obligation as leaders in the US to assist us in navigating these unprecedented times. We will get through it. I'm very confident we will. But using technology to get through this and have us stronger on the other side, I think will be the keys to 2021, 2022, especially around GDP.
Well, listen, on behalf of the audience, both now and later, I applaud you for, as Mitch Jacobs of founded Ondeck says, I applaud you for provisioning your principles, that you not only figured out where your hearts and souls were and spirits were and character was, as you're describing, but you also figured out how to do it, how to actually implement it. And that's what's so critical. I don't think there's anybody that doesn't, at least in our ecosystem, that doesn't want to support small business, but our tendency is to frankly make it a little overcomplicated because it's such a fragmented market, where you guys just did some very, very simple, straightforward, fingertip feel kind of things. And as I said, I really applaud that. Hey, this has been great. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
Thank you. And look, your mission to champion small business, your role with the professionals, your members, you're doing great work. And if you think about it, it's more important right now than it ever has been. So have a great conference here over the next 2 days. I have a couple of friends that are speaking, here tomorrow, Jeff Monday at Qualcomm. So I wish all of them luck, and let me know if you ever need anything. I appreciate your time, David.
I appreciate yours. Thanks very much.